Hey friends, this is Ifa. Welcome back to my channel. So today's video is about my June bullet journal setup, and we're going to do a heavy painting in my cover page right away. It's not going to be that bold or heavy. There will be a little bit of details there, but yeah, it's not going to be very difficult. And I'm going to use my Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolor that I always use. I'm gonna use 3 different brushes for this painting. Basically, I will use 2 of these brushes in the prior bases because I need a very detailed brush for detailed leaves and daisies, and another one is this Cotman brush, which is very precise with smaller to medium spaces to fill out, and it comes with the watercolor set. And also I'm gonna use this little bit or thicker brush from the Cotman brush because it's going to be needed if I need any larger space to color out. Since my notebook doesn't contain any watercolor paper and it's only 160 GSM paper, I need to be careful with the water because I don't like too much work papers in my bullet journal, so I will use a very less water, and I'm going to have a separate tissue paper so that if there is too much water, I'm gonna tap that out. So here, as you can see, I have started with the background first, and I'm using a sap green color to build up the background. And here, as you can see, that the water amount is a little bit higher so that the color doesn't look too much bold, because I'm gonna build up the colors little by little. And here, as you can see, that at first I have gone with this larger paintbrush. Later I had to switch out with the Cotman brush because I need to paint out a very simple details here so that the front duck doesn't cover up with the sap green color. So now it's time to build up the color in the background, and I wanted these 2 ducks to be more on focus. That's why I need to build up the color in the background. And if you have noticed that in the lawn or in the grasses there are lots of shades with the same color. So here I'm going to darken up the sap green along with the hooker's green to make a little bit dark green so that we can build up the shadows here. During this process I need to be very careful with the water amount. As you can see, the water level is very low, and as I'm going with the dry on water technique here, I need to wait a little bit longer to dry out the paint on the paper. And as you can see that I am going multiple times to build up the colors here, and gradually the colors are darken up, and that's what I needed to create this easy background for the lawn. One thing that I did here is to build up the color in the middle, but in the rest of the background I didn't color the whole space that much, but I thought that I should keep a little bit of spaces that is more exposed to light. I hope that makes sense. Now it's time to build up the colors of the grass, and here I'm using the same color, that's the hooker's green and sap green, to build up a darker leaf color. I didn't want it to make too much variant or shadows with the watercolors. That's why I am using the same color to create the grasses. This how the painting looks much more easier, and I don't need to have too much shades on the grass because I don't need that for this painting, I believe, and I didn't want to make it too much difficult for myself or anyone who wants to recreate this painting. That's why here, as you can see, that the grasses are pretty dark from the background and it's not light enough, and there is a limitation of watercolors we use, that we don't use lighter colors in the top of the darker colors. So I didn't thought too much about it, and here, as you can see, I'm using the detail brush to paint the grasses little by little. And here I have used one technique, that's if you're using the brush in a little bit of angle and you are going to doing the upstroke, you will put the brush very lightly, and when you're going on the downstroke, like for leaves that are fallen out, I was kind of pressuring the brush little bit on the paper. That means I'm pressing harder than the upper strokes. That's how I create the fallen leaves here, and the normal leaves that you can see here, I'm just spiking the brush little by little. And that's how I create this leaf of this lawn. In the preview, you have seen already that there is some daisies. I wanted to use watercolor here in the beginning, but then I thought that it's going to be very difficult to create a lot of details for daisies. That's why I didn't thought too much, and I kind of colored the whole area with green. And then I will use a gouache paint to create the dots for daisies. And you can use your white gel pen that works with the watercolors, and also acrylic marker paints or acrylic paints. It's up to you. It doesn't really make any difference for these little details, but I'm gonna use the gouache paint that's more convenient for me. For the duck, I didn't want to use any white paint in the beginning because the paper is already white and I don't need to use any white paint. So I wanted to give this duck a little bit of shadows, and I'm using a very subtle gray color here. There is nothing to do with the gray and you can use white and little bit of black along with much more water to create this gray color, and I kept the gray little bit warmer than cooler, and I kind of mixed a little bit yellow into this mixture to make it warmer gray. I'm using the detail brush to create little bit of shadows for the faders so that it looks like there is a lot of going on, but it's not that too difficult. But here in the wings, I kind of added too much gray here, so I will use a gouache paint to cover that up later, but it's not that bad, I believe. And in this cover page, I kind of make this illustration looks like more children's book kind of illustration, that it looks cartoonish, but later I thought that I should go with something that's more realistic and enjoyable. That's why the printables that I made for my patrons, I kind of go with something that's more realistic than cartoonish, but it's kind of in between. That's the style of my art, to be honest. So I wanted to share the preview of the journaling kits that I made for my patrons. So here is the journaling kit, the cover page, and some wallpapers along with a sticker sheet. So if you don't know, I have a Patreon page where I monthly make digital journaling kit along with physical stickers for happy meals. Recently I changed something on my Patreon. I would like to tell a little bit of that. Basically, there are 4 tiers here now. In the past I have 5, but recently I changed my tiers and they are only 4 right now. So let's going back to the cover page. As you can see, I have already colored out this little duckling here. I have used a yellow color, which is a mixture of lemon yellow hue and cadmium yellow hue to make a brighter but more warmer yellow tone. And for the brick, I used the cadmium pale yellow hue along with cadmium orange hue so that I can create this orangey shade. And for the shadows of the brick and the legs of these duck and ducklings, I have used a little bit of burnt umber to create a little bit of darker orange that's more in the brown side. And for this scarf, I have used the cadmium red pale hue and a little bit of yellow to create this orangey shade. And for the daisies, it's time for the daisies, and I'm going to use my gouache white paint. This is from the Himi gouache set, and I'm using the titanium white here. And here I am using a very small water to activate the paint, which tends to make a very opaque watercolor. I wanted to make this painting look a little bit detailed, so I thought that I should create a whitish gray color to create the distant daisies here in the lawn, so I'm using white gouache paint along with a little bit of gray paint so that it looks rare and less bright. The daisies are a little bit higher from the lawn, which gets more light. I am using a very opaque white color, and for the daisies that are in the shadows, I'm using that lightest gray color. I hope that makes sense because it's very difficult to explain this painting. And for the front daisies, I sort of added a little bit of gray color to create some shadows so that it doesn't look like a white blob. So that's the painting for now. And for the title of this cover page, I'm using a dark green color to create this bubbly font here. I don't think that there is any name of this font. It's just came out of my mind while sketching out, and I'm using the gray fine liner from Unipin pen to create a shadow line here. And by using some glitters or foil stickers, my cover page is done. And the next spread, besides the cover page, I'm making a dashboard, which is basically a combination of my tasks and habit list. And this is the fourth time I'm creating this dashboard spread besides my cover page this year, because I think that I don't need any mood tracker or any larger dedicated habit tracker or content planning or task spread for this setup. I only need 2 rows for all of these things, so I only created the layout for habit trackers, like 4 habit trackers here in the spread, and another one is going to be my important task list or the master to-do list along with my content thoughts. I'm using the stickers that I made for my April physical rewards, so it's not available in my Patreon club anymore. If you join this month, you're going to get the rewards for July themed, but if you want to get these stickers, you can join in my Patreon in any tier that you like, and you will get a password, and that password is basically to open up the secret shop which is in my shop. And that's basically a fun thing that all my patrons can access all the Patreon only stickers later. If they want to get them, they can purchase from my website. I really like these stickers. Turned out it looks very cute and cohesive with this theme and the printables. And also the die cut sticker is basically outsourced. That means it's waterproof and it's a vinyl sticker, and it's basically themed for the May. It kind of gave me a little bit of headache to outsource the things because it took a lot of time to get them. It's not because of the manufacturer, but in the customs it was stuck for ages. So yeah, and I thought that I'd just put it as soon as possible, but it literally came in May 20 and it took a lot of time for me to get them. So yeah, but I think for the May rewards is going to be delivered to you very soon because it's already in my hand. While talking, we already have made a dashboard spread, and we are making our calendar page comes the weekly planner spread. Here I am using the gray fine liner to create all the lines, and the calendar is basically 4x4 for each day. Basically, these spreads are for the weekly planners because I want to have a specific space where I am going to write all the main tasks that I need to do in that specific week. I hope that makes sense. And I kind of color coded everything so that it kind of makes me very easy to go with that week. In the first week, we are getting like 7 days because I have to start my days with Sunday because the weekend is basically Friday and Saturday in Bangladesh. So yeah, And here I'm having 5 weeks, but the 5th week will contain only 2 days, so I'm not going to make any weekly spreads for that here in this June bullet journal setup. I'm going to include that in the July setup, so that's why the weekly space is very smaller here. Oh, I forgot to tell you that I'm using the neutral zebra mind liner highlighters here to create this whole setup, because I think the colors are very subtle and goes with the colors I am using in my paintings. And in this spread, I'm going to finish this up with my own washi tapes that you can find on my website, and the stickers that I made for my patrons here. And also I am including the squares and circle stickers from my shop. That's basically from the Indie Pond sticker set. I will link everything in the description. If you're interested, you can get that from that. So at first I wanted to go with just brush pens, but I knew that I cannot build up the colors with brush pens with the visuals that I want, and that's why I have to go with paintings. And it was a sudden decision. Like when I just sketched the whole painting, I didn't even thought that I would use watercolors. But when I started painting, or when I just opened my notebook, I thought I cannot go with brush pens only. I need to use watercolors and use gouache to build up the daisies. So yeah. So that's the monthly calendar spread, and the next spread that I'm going to make is basically my weekly spread, and the weekly spread is going to be very simple. So here in the top I wanted to paint a bit so that it looks more cohesive with the theme. I didn't want to use the stickers here. I wanted to paint a little bit more because it has been ages that I used my watercolors or paints in my bullet journal or do a proper or a full painting. So basically I'm painting a duck which is seated, and I wanted to have a very subtle colors into this painting because the duck is pretty white and I don't need too much colors into it. So I am building up the background a little bit darker so that it looks more popped up. And here the techniques are exactly same like the cover page. And in this duck I also added a daisy, a yellow daisy is placed in his head. I think ducks are pretty cute when they do silly things. So yeah. And I also included this illustration in the sticker sheet for my patron because I think this is one of my favorite and I really like this painting a lot. I changed my tiers a little bit and they are only 4 right now. There is a tier called Hunk. There you will get a printable calendar along with all the behind the scenes monthly newsletter, patron only Discord server, early access to my occasional videos, that kind of stuff. And the next tier is basically the Oswald tier. There you are getting the sticker sheet in A4, A5 and A6 sizes, and there is a combination of that. Also there is a PNG to use the illustrations digitally in your notes or in your digital journals. And also there is wallpaper if the theme makes any sense to create a wallpaper for that. I will definitely make one, and if it doesn't fit with the wallpaper I am going to basically make another reward for you. It can be a real-time traditional painting or a real-time digital painting, and also a time lapse of any illustration that I'm going to do in Procreate. So basically that's the Oswald tier and all the tiers from the previous tiers. And in the Pearl tier, that's another digital tier where you're getting the journaling kits, and there are a lot of journaling kits that you can use in your planner, your bullet journal, and I always put a lot of things that might help you to make your journal look beautiful. And also sometimes I am going to make my cover pages for you in digital version so that you can print it out and make the exact same cover page like mine, and all the tiers from the previous tiers. That's the pearl tier, and the next tier, which is all the tier, the last tier, that contains all the reviewers from previous tiers along with physical mail. And there I am going to put an exclusive sticker sheet, theme sticker sheets that matches to my bullet journal. There is going to be another sticker sheet or a die cut sticker that is outsourced and printed on vinyl paper. If you're interested, you can check that out because it's very fun. For the layout, I have gone for two different gray colors. One is a lightest gray color and another one is a little bit darker, and I think it is a very different layout that I have been doing since I started bullet journaling, and I like how this layout turned out. And that's my whole bullet journal setup. I didn't thought too much when I was making this setup. I was having really fun while creating the illustrations and layouts. So here comes the final flip through of this bullet journal setup. I only made like 3 spreads here. I think my bullet journaling style is getting very smaller and smaller, and also I do have a lot of separate journals for everything, so my weekly spreads are always like 2 pages long. I keep my bullet journals shorter than previous self. So that's the whole video, and I hope you like this video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing to my channel, and that will help me a little bit to grow on this platform. I hope I will see you in my next video. So until then, be safe, be healthy, and be happy. Bye guys.